Real conversations, let's have real conversations.
Get ready to stir it up.
Life events and everything in between, let's go.
Get ready to stir it up.
No capping, if guests got you covered right up.
Get ready to stir it up, stir it up.
Come on.
Get ready to stir it up.
Welcome to Stir It Up. Today I've got Melissa and Kenny, and we're going to be talking about how to live and thrive with Gen Zers. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? So I'll start with Melissa.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Melissa Albane. I work as a program assistant in the development sector. A fun fact about me is I love to try new things with regards to food. Anything spicy, less creamy, I'm in for it. But aside that, please don't call me. That's all I have to say.
It's nice that you're a foodie.
Yeah.
And I wish if foodies had like a code, you kind of vibe me into that code, because then I would also, because I'm also a foodie.
Yeah.
I don't eat a lot, but food excites me. Just the idea of food and what's a nice place to go to, what are we eating today? I'll make so much noise about it, but I don't actually
Eat a lot. You just want to taste it.
And Kenny, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, so I'm Kenneth.
Yeah.
Kenneth Samuel. I'm Mensa. I work in IT and communications. And I like to think of myself as a bit of an unpublished writer.
Unpublished writer. You know, it takes a lot of time to actually get published there, because you're probably in the closet. You'll be in the closet for a while.
Very long while.
I've been in the closet for like 25 years. So maybe, you never know, I'll come out of that closet one day soon. But it's lovely to hear you talk about the things that are important to you. And they're interesting things. Okay, so a thought for you. You know, every brand says we want to talk to Gen Zers. We want to talk to the youth. We want to talk to young people. And we're always marketing to young people. And we think we understand young people. And one of the days I was looking in a brainstorming session, and all the creatives were in their late 30s. And then, you know, there were a few scattered, you know, people in their 40s in the room. And I was like, this room is the wrongest room to be creating any content for anybody, you know, who is, you know, under 28. Thoughts? I'll start with you.
Okay. So I actually love the fact that you've acknowledged a bit of you not knowing the Gen Zers, because I call them Gen X, the millennials. Think they know us, but they don't. So with us, I would say we are the questioners or the question askers. Reason being that we don't usually conform to the norms of the world. We always want to understand why A is being done this way and B is being done that way. So, I mean, that's a general idea of who we are and what we stand for. So, okay, you want us to use road left. Why do you want us to go this way? Why are we not using that way? Can't we go back and come again another time? That is what we are in for. So we just love asking questions and try to find reasons why a certain thing should be done. So that's all I can say.
Sometimes we think they're just challenging for challenging's sake.
That's how you feel.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes that's what the thinking is. So tell us. I mean, and remember, this conversation is to try and understand, right? So is that what it is? Is that not what it is? Tell us a bit more.
So we don't challenge. That's the thing. We just want to know why.
Okay.
I think your the Gen X and the Gen Ys, that's how I refer them, they grew up knowing that, okay, so if an adult says I should do this in a particular way, I need to conform to it.
Right.
But we, the Gen Zs, we don't understand why that should be the case. Okay, we are preparing jollof. If you would you would blend everything and put in the saucepan and cook, we would want things to simmer. Okay, we just want to build flavor one way or the other. And then if you feel if the Gen X or Ys wanted to be in a particular way and we decide not to go that way, they feel we are challenging them. But that's not really the case. It's because maybe we've watched a lot of cooking videos. TikTok videos. There are lots of chefs on YouTube right now where you can go there and pick ideas from different chefs. So that is where we get our ideas from. The truth of the matter, we spend most of our time on phone, so we get to see these things and we want to apply them to our lives. But then if you try to box us, then we have a problem with that. It's not really about challenging. It's about learning wide, exploring, and all that. Yeah.
Thoughts?
Okay, for me, I feel like Gen Zers are like the people who were the kids brought up on the internet.
Okay.
More often than not, you find that because of the agents, the second, or should I say, the new agents of socialization that came in, which is the internet, certain status quos are being challenged.
Okay.
In a different way, more often than is normal and is accepted by those who are older.
Okay.
You find that the questions and inquisitions are normally into why, so that you can do something that is more efficient. Because tell me why, like you do some things and then you go like, you do something and then your mom asks you, why are you doing it this way? Because I think it's more efficient this way. You're like, no, we've always done it this way, but like it's efficient this way. Why are we not doing it this way? There are questions that like always the question is why.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's always there isn't an immediate answer that is being able to be given to us by whether it's our parents, our older siblings, or whatever.
Or work colleagues.
Like nothing. So it feels like you are on your own island trying to figure it out.
Or you're on autopilot, or you've just been conforming for so long that you've not actually thought about why you've been doing things a certain way.
I don't think that might necessarily be the issue for Gen Zers. I feel like that's more an issue for the millennials.
No, I'm saying for they, not you, and maybe let's not put it as you and me, but I'm saying they've been on autopilot. So they've just been doing things a certain way because that's how it's been done. They've been socialized to do it. So they've not looked for alternative ways to do it. That's what I'm saying. So not for Gen Zers.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Right.
So more often than not, you find yourself like trying to find
new
ways to do something, or if you want to. So it kind of feels like you always have a justification for why you're doing something some way. But it's not really a justification. It's just the way you see the world is quite different.
Yeah.
Because you find that some things you can obviously see the flaw in it. But being able to point it out, there's a certain courage that comes with like being young, being jovial, being energetic, that like you're able to say it, and we are not shackled by the institutions of culture and like what some of our grandparents would say amamre and all those kind of things. So like you are a bit part removed because of the shift from the extended to the nuclear. So like the socialization on the family side is a bit less.
Got it. So when you talk about shackles and you talk about freedom and you talk about just being able to think almost differently and find new ways of doing things, but you also talk about a certain sense of self. That's what I hear, where it's almost like this is how we want to do things and we're exploring. I think about identity in terms of your identities, because it's quite a very different identity from the identities that we formed growing up. I want to understand what part of your identities are most important to you and that you always seek to protect. And I'll start with you since I was already on you.
For me personally, it's more of I don't know where I'm going yet. It's more like taking it along, like rolling with the waves as they come. So that you
There's no
kind of
plan.
sort of like there is not a set plan. Like there is an idea that makes it clear that this is where I want to go to, but not necessarily a clear route.
Okay.
So it's more like how do I get there in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of, should I say, oppression so that I can efficiently reach that point where I can say I have achieved my goal.
So would you say your identity is one of, just hearing what you're saying, would you say your identity is one of wanting to be liberated or be free? If you're personalizing an identity, what would that be?
So personally, I don't even have an idea about it. Wow. All right, so we're just adding up to what Kenneth said. Despite the fact that we tend to do things our own way, we still want contributions. We still want to be heard. We still want. It's like it's an on and off situation where we want to do things in a particular way, but then we still want ideas from those who have been there before.
Okay.
I don't know if so that is. We just want to be heard.
When you think of identity, what comes to your mind?
How you describe yourself,
Good,
how
right.
you portray yourself.
So, what part of your identity is important to you? What part of who you are is important to you?
My voice.
Your voice.
Yeah.
To be heard.
Yes.
That's incredible. That's actually a very powerful part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
What else is important to you? And why is that important to you? Maybe.
Okay, so as I think I was mentioning earlier about my ideas being heard of, and I mean still awaiting contribution, but then I just want it to be valued. I think most of the times, especially in the corporate world, our ideas are not really welcomed.
Because you don't have experience.
Exactly.
You don't know. You've been doing this for however many years. So you don't know what you're
Exactly.
But then you go and then like you're a young gun looking for a job, and then they go like they need 10 years of experience.
You even say 4.
And you just find yourself wondering, like, are you really you are qualified, or you feel you are qualified and feel like you can put something of value on the table, but it becomes a question of, do you actually have the skills? Because another thing with Gen Zers is that we are students of the world and the internet more often than not. So things that the older generation would have sat in a classroom to learn and have a certificate for, we do it on the fly, and then we already have those skills in our hands and ready to work with them. Such that, like, let's look at the content creation space, for instance. I can tell you for certain that most of the people who did content creation or are doing content creation now don't have necessarily degrees in that. But then it's what feels good, what they've learned, what the few lessons that they've seen from online, people doing it, and then a genuine interest. And that genuine interest is a passion that fuels like them to do better than what is normally right, or should I say the status quo. So more often than not, you find them overqualified in a lot of aspects, but also underqualified in a lot of aspects. Because, like, let's take, for example, the work setting. To a greater extent, you are not taught so much on how to properly, this is how you show respect, this is how this thing. But then it's just that you want your ideas out there, you want them heard, and you want them to be valued. So whatever you do whether it is raising your voice a little bit, passive aggressively, passively aggressively, just passing a comment that may not necessarily
gets attention.
just so that so that's a little bit on that side.
So there are so many expectations of us as humans, right? It's a human thing. We have expectations. And the expectations are on multiple fronts. So it's family, it's work, it's personal, it's our relationships, and so on. And I'm sure that there's so many expectations that the world throws at you. And I know you don't speak for every Gen Zer, but you're speaking just based on your personal experience. How are you navigating some of these expectations that are thrown at you? So pick whether it's family or whether it's relationships, pick any one or two, and tell me how you're navigating those expectations.
So, with respect to with respect to family, I've in order to manage stress with regards to family, I have decided to put myself first in a way, mainly because a friend of mine will say, problem not the finish. Okay, it keeps on coming. You cannot deal with all of them. You cannot tackle or try to resolve every issue that comes your way. And I noticed that if care is not taken, you might end up forsaking or forgoing your personal needs in expense of resolving other people's needs. So with regards to that, I've just decided or learned to put myself first. Okay, so yes, I know I need to do A, B, C, and D, but what do I have to do for me to be able to stay healthy, to be able to help you in future, the other person in future? So putting myself first is one way I'm dealing with the stress with regards to family. Okay. Yeah.
So you're managing expectations by, but okay, does your family understand that? Because it's about managing them as well. So they know that this is a boundary.
Yes. So I have noticed there would never be a 100% understanding when it comes to these kind of conversations about their expectations of you and then what you aim to achieve in the near future. So that is how come I came into that conclusion.
Of drawing the line.
Yeah. So I need to put myself first. I can help when and how I want to, but then it shouldn't be at the expense of my mental health.
So you're not managing them, you're managing yourself.
Yes, because it gets
and that's okay, don't worry.
That's
okay.
It gets to a point where you, the individual trying to help, forgo yourself to the extent that it affects your own mental health.
Got it.
You become depressed for no reason, and because you are trying to be the stronger person, you barely have people to talk to. You cannot really talk to anybody.
Understood.
And you cannot just go out and be talking to every friend you meet. Yes. So me putting myself first is one way I'm managing that. Yeah.
How are you managing that?
So just jumping on what Melissa said, I'll go back to mentioning the fact that sometimes it feels like we're on an island where it doesn't necessarily feel like we're understood by the people that surround us. So then we look for other opportunities to be heard and other channels to be heard. It is quite clear that sometimes the barrier that you set may sometimes be overstepped and is mostly due to a lack of understanding of where you are at your current state, and the expectations of you at the states that they or whoever is ahead of you feels that you should have reached.
Okay.
So more often than not, I find myself pushing further to let my work do the talking more than my voice.
Okay.
You try to make them understand from a point of view where this can work. You just need to give it a chance. So it's a matter of like, show you're working. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but the opportunity cost with having it work in your favor, that's something that I'm willing to gamble away just to make sure that we get what we want the way we want it.
Okay.
And then sometimes it becomes, like what I've learned is that sometimes it becomes apparent to whoever gave us the instruction to begin with that they may have had the right idea, but maybe the execution was just a little bit off. Okay. So that's where then you have a small meeting point. But before you reach that meeting point,
there's tension.
You would have forced and pushed and ranted and wailed before you would have gotten there. Because I work in tech, right? And unfortunately, I was not allowed to pursue it at a lower level. So it was more like you got to read your books, you got to learn, because it felt like a bubble that would burst at any point in time and it wasn't going anywhere.
Got it.
But I took it on that, yes, I'll read my books, but on my spare time, I'll try and explore this passion that I have for tech. And to some extent, it has benefited me to a greater point because now I'm able to use those skills to have money come into my pocket.
Okay.
And it's funny how now, whenever there's something wrong with a computer, anything in my house, and it goes like, oh, Kenneth knows what it is, like he can fix it right away. But there was a time where there was pushback. It's like,
you can't do this.
You can't do this. No.
So it wasn't an attractive profession for your parents.
Exactly.
It was like do something else to go into the traditional professions of whether it's medicine, engineering, or but then so you probably did that as a second degree or post your first degree.
So not necessarily a degree at all. These were skills that I learned
on your own.
Yes. So I always like, now I have a lot of parents who come to me and go like, oh, my kid wants to learn tech. How does they do it? I'm like, I tell them honestly, I'm like, are you ready to pay for every broken thing that they dismantle? Because like that was the opportunity that was given me.
Yeah.
I can't recall how many times I've destroyed a computer because I wanted to try the new game. And
so I'm a bit confused here. Did your parents support it, or is something that you actually... Did they support for you to go into tech, or they were insisting you do something else?
The insistence was always to do something else.
Okay, got it.
But then, like, from what I was hearing from all across, like, I had this ICT teacher that became my very good friend.
Okay.
Because everything that I wanted to do, I'd go and ask him at school. Then I'd rush home after doing my homework and all of the things that I'm supposed to do as a kid. And then I'd go try it, bring back the results, and then go back to him.
Yeah.
He gave me a couple of books to read. Then we continue. And he was also very young, like comparatively, because the tech was not something that a lot of
people were
into. Okay. So we built a bit of a connection. We built a bit of a like a camaraderie. Like, these are the things that we want to do. These are the things that excite us. Mm-hmm. So just building up from there, it was like slowly, like my parents came around, but it wasn't always.
It took a minute.
It took a lot. It took a lot.
So we'll go into the next part of it, which is just around well-being. Mm-hmm. We are finding in the workplace that people in your generation said well-being is a very important part for you. Yeah. And what that means is that, it's important to take care of yourself and make sure that you're in a good place, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me what well-being means to you. And what kind of support systems you look out for to ensure that your well-being is good. So what is good well-being, and what support systems you look out for to support your mental well-being?
Okay, so
mental and emotional well-being.
Okay. They all boil down to having peace of mind.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me start from the workplace. The workplace shouldn't, we spend like 70% of our time in our offices or at the workplace. Okay. And then I think the environment should be as conducive as much as possible.
Okay.
So with regards to items to put in place, all work and no play. That there should be that kind of balance.
Okay.
There are some situations or offices whereby you go and it's just work for the whole 8 hours and then you are done. Some do that because they feel that is not the place to make friends. But I mean, this is where you spend most of your life.
Your waking hours, isn't
Yes.
it?
So if you don't try to make the place welcoming or conducive, it tends to go against you. Imagine you going to the office and you and your supervisor, you're not on good terms.
Yeah.
The place becomes very toxic for you.
Yeah.
But then when there are situations whereby you can just openly talk about any other thing aside work,
Yeah.
you know, you have those kind of small breaks one way or the other. There are plans in place for team bonding, going for retreats, maybe having in-house parties and all that. It makes the place welcoming. It makes the place very conducive to stay in. Okay. So those are all the attributes of making your environment or making the workplace very conducive. That's what eventually contributes to you, the individual, having a peace of mind. Okay. So yeah.
And just to harp on that again, it's more often than not, it's like I personally developed a mantra that do what you love and you never work a day in your life.
Okay.
I've lived by that for a long time, and that's why I find myself in the position and the profession I find myself. More often than not, I find myself going to work with a happy attitude because I am doing what I've always dreamed that I wanted. I've had opportunities, and that's going back to peace. I've had opportunities that might have catapulted me to stardom and stuff, but then it wasn't really and truly what I wanted to do. I mean, I was good at it, but not something necessarily that I wanted to do. But what I find is that when I'm doing what I love, no matter the remuneration, even though it's important, like some of these things are very easy to look past in many ways. And for me, that's a big part of well-being. Okay. Because if I'm doing what I want, if I'm doing what I really want to do, like there are very few people who can stop me from enjoying it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, but I agree with you. I agree with the aspect of enjoying it. I mean, there are people who went to school to read nursing or, let's say, engineering, who are currently in the NGO space implementing activities related to health. So what about those people?
I mean, if you love what you do, I mean, you're never going to work a day in life. And I keep saying that because the mere fact is that...
No, so make your point. What are you saying?
I'm just trying to say that despite the fact that you might enjoy what you are doing or what you do at the workplace, if the environments are not safe or conducive, it makes it difficult for you to be productive.
I mean, you're not wrong. Considering the fact that, like, you can have, like, maybe a very scary supervisor. Let's put it that way. Okay. Someone on the extreme end.
Okay, so I guess the point you're making is you can be doing what you love, but there's certain things that could also take that away from you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So I guess the caveat is you could be doing what you love, but you have to be working for yourself. And even if you're working for yourself, life can throw you in all sorts of curveballs. But I do see his point where he says, find something that you love to do. And it almost halves the potential stress that comes with working, right?
Okay.
But I also see the valid points that you make, that you could be doing what you love, but maybe the workplace culture might be so toxic that it actually steals the joy from that actual role that you're performing. And it's actually lovely to see you challenge the thoughts, isn't it? Because normally we are so sensitive and we will say, oh no, it's okay, he said it, it's fine, let's just leave it be. You know, so it is, and thank you for kind of speaking up, right? And allowing your voice be heard in this conversation. So back on the The last question on well-being, and this is a bit of a challenging one. There is a thought that people in your generation do not have the mental rigor and the strength of mind to navigate difficult times. Thoughts?
I think you should take this one.
You're both going to take it.
Yes.
I think that it wouldn't be fair to say that. Because the way you handle something may not necessarily be the way I handle something. Right? People keep asking that, what are you actually doing to, like, all these expectations, these, like, things that life throws at you. Sometimes you think about it and then you go like, so how am I going to deal with it? It's like, normally it's a personal conversation that you have to have with yourself, and you do have with yourself, whether cognitively or irrespective, because it's like, what is like, and naturally we human beings ourselves, we respond to stimuli in different ways.
Okay.
And in responding to them, we have different forms that we take. Somebody may choose to recuse themselves, like, I'm not going to deal with this right now. Then they speak up their mind and then they're done. Some people to internalize it in a different way. But more often than not, our generation, we feel that you should be able to voice out your opinion. Like, let your voice be heard, and not necessarily internalize it to the point where it will be detrimental to you. Mm-hmm. And that sense of being vulnerable, like,
you use the V word.
Yes, it's a very this thing. But then, like, you being vulnerable, like emotionally, like available, such that your boss can, like, maybe there's this one day, like, work has been very tough, and then, like, you know, like, it's almost become like an institution, for instance, like men don't cry. So, like, you, like, even trying to shed a small tear or being somewhat down, these are emotions that you are not allowed to show. And as a result of that, you feel the pressure of doing that. But we are not going to kowtow to some of these things. And then
So you show the emotions as a generation?
Yeah, like, sometimes you let your voice be heard. If I'm angry, I'm angry. If I'm sad, I'm sad. Like, it's not now that you're come to, like, it's not now that you're come to go like, oh, we don't do that here, we don't do that here. Because, like
I said, do you speak Ga?
No, I don't speak Ga, but I get because, like, I give you 70% of my time every day. Mm-hmm. Why should I not be able to get that satisfaction? And, like, I should be satisfied both not in my pocket, but also my mind and my body and my soul.
It should be a healthy place for me. Okay.
Yeah, like.
So you think you have the mental rigor. It's just that your expression of that is different from what traditionally other generations have experienced.
Very much so.
And because you're not displaying it the way we have, or you're not stoic enough. So we think you don't. Mm-hmm. But we are going through some kind of a mental health pandemic of sorts, right? Mm-hmm. Where even with millennials and even other generations, mental health has become a significant issue, right?
Yeah.
And your generation is bearing the brunt of it. Mm-hmm. What is contributing to that? So it's happening across generations. It's not just, and I guess because of social media and because things are a bit more open, we see it more, right? It's always existed, but it's more visible today. But we also see how younger generation, I have teenage children, and you see how, the conversations are quite a little bit more tense when it comes from a mental health standpoint. Yeah. What do you think is contributing to that from your perspective? Because I'm sure you have friends who are struggling, who have depression, who might have, mental health breakdowns, or who might, be dealing with different things.
With a lot of things. Well, that's actually that's actually very true, and it all boils down to the fact that we are all, I mean, our parents and we as the Gen Zers, we are all coming from different age brackets or groups. With regards to mental health, I feel there is a let's say 80% neglection to that aspect, despite the fact that we know it exists, but there is not much attention being paid to it. And imagine you being with someone, or you growing up with a parent who is just trying to hustle for you to be able to attend school or pay your fees and all that, and then you go to and be like, oh, mommy, I feel depressed.
Wake up! You're what?
She'll be like,
What is that?
well,
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not funny, but I know exactly what you mean. It's like
yes.
snap out of it.
Exactly.
And they don't realize that you just can't snap out of it.
Exactly. You would call, I'm not selling it out, but you call your sister and you tell her that I feel depressed. You'll be like, she will say it in Tree. And also, and you have to face life with a strong heart. And I'm like, that is not the case. I've been facing life with a strong heart for God knows how long, but I really need this to be tackled. I really need this to be spoken about. But they still don't get it, you know. And I feel this is a topic we need to really pay much attention to, because now the situations surrounding your age group, or when you were growing up, I mean, you used to buy sachet water for 5 pesos or 1 peso or something like that. We are now buying it for 50 pesos. So clearly, the how much work you need to put in to get things done have changed. And now we have to now think, I feel the Gen Zers have to now think twice of how you were doing it to get things done. But that aspect...
do you not have more support? It's a question.
The support,
it's a question. Do you not have more support?
So it's
and you can disagree.
I feel there is support, but is it needed support?
Okay.
Or from the people that you're expecting such support from.
Okay.
Because consider this. I am not being heard in my own house. But then I have people who are genuinely willing to pull a chair and then listen to what I have to say, no matter how wrong it is, and actually go along with what I am about to say.
Okay. So sometimes the support is not healthy support, is that what you're saying?
It's not from those we expect it from.
Okay.
Because let's say...
But does it matter? Once you have support, you have support.
I don't think it's not a matter of it's coming. It's not really with regards to the person it's coming from. It's with regards to whether the person understands what you need and is willing to give to you. So I need A, B, and C. Oh, I have D. It can do whatever that you need. No,
I need A, B, and C.
I need A, B, and C. I don't need D. So it's a matter of you and the individual understanding the support, the kind of support you need, and also helping you with it.
At the beginning of this conversation, we're talking about alternative solutions, where jollof is traditionally made. And I was going to comment earlier because I think the older generation was very systematic in cooking. Yeah. The onions need to brown and they need to get caramelized to a certain point before you add your tin tomatoes, you add your pepper, and you add your onion, and you add your tomatoes. The cooking process was a long, tedious process, right?
It takes 3 hours to cook jollof.
To do jollof is a 3-hour process. Yeah. I kid you not, right? Yeah. Today, you guys put everything in the blender, you blend it and you go, right? And an hour, 30 minutes, the food, a bit. It's cooked, it's done, we're good to eat. Dinner is ready, right? I thought we were talking about alternative solutions. You say you need A, B, or C. But I say D could sort your problem out. Yeah. I thought you were the open-minded generation. Why are you not considering D?
Because we still need ABS.
Yes.
We can't add D.
Isn't that a fixed mindset there, right? Because you were at the beginning of this conversation, you were putting forward the idea of having a bit more of an open mindset, right?
Yes.
And not being fixed.
Yes.
Right?
But I think.
But now I see that you kind of switched on me.
I think
because
along the line, I did mention that despite the fact that we want to do things in a particular way, we still need your opinions. We know that you've been there. We know that you can share ideas on it, but we also want you to understand that, okay, so this is my idea. Is there a way we can take?
And so I'm offering you D, because I don't have A, B, or C.
Why can't we?
but why can't you help us
do
find
A,
it?
B, and D and leave out C?
No, you're asking me for help.
Yeah.
You want A, B, and C.
Yeah.
I don't have A, B, and C. I have D. But D can potentially help you when you don't want D. so let me tell you the middle ground for me. And it's one of the situations where, and I'm going down a very slippery slope with this particular comment, right? Where people will say, I am this way inclined. And you have to accept me that way.
Okay.
And that's okay. I'm willing to accept you. But remember that I've been socialized for the past 40 however many years to be a certain way. So you need to be patient with me, right? But no, I must adjust. But you are not willing to adjust to realize that this is how I've been doing it for 40-something years. And you are 23 or 24 years old, and I have to adjust to you immediately, right? But there is a compromise that we all need to make in service of being able to support each other, right? And you find that a lot when it comes to people of different sexual orientations, right? That I'm of this sexual orientation. Oh, well and good. I'm not going to, argue with you on that. And it's like, accept me. Oh, yes, we accept you. But remember that it's an adjustment period for me.
Yeah.
Right? So bear with me as I adjust, as I bear with you as you work through your identity. Right? You get me? And it's the same thing with what you're just saying, that you want me to accept that you are agile and you're thinking differently and solving problems differently. And guess what? I am actually willing to do it because I'm tired of solving problems, right? But at the same time,
you still have something.
I have my old ways of, when my father says jump, I say how high, right? So I also need you to bear with me that it's not every day that I will come 100% correct. But the days I come wrong, extend grace and understand that maybe 80% of the time I understand you, but sometimes I will go back into my old ways. And you say, hey, Pia, please.
This one.
Push here small.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a bit of where do we meet each other in that middle? Because it's a messy middle that we need to meet each other in and kind of clean up that middle. Is that fair?
Yeah.
It seems fair.
Seems fair. I like that.
That is if the other party is willing to agree that we need to meet at a certain point.
Yeah.
But
a lot of the time, there's not that agreement. And I see that. The older generations hold a firm position.
Exactly.
I do see that.
Yeah.
I do see that.
So
I see that.
we like it when, the whole conversation is about us being heard and us agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
But sometimes the imposition is so
The impasse is quite clear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
because
that
it's
is
like you
what we
come
used to-
under a certain guise.
Yeah.
That, oh, I'm here willing to talk. But then it quickly devolves into our old ways.
Of, no, my way or the highway.
Yes.
Yes, I
So
get
it's
that.
like,
Exactly.
I hear you,
But
But we are still doing it
we
this
are
way.
still doing
Yeah,
this way.
this way. Yeah. Okay. So let's dovetail into the next section of this, which is around relationships and connections. Because, and this dovetails nicely where you say, I hear you, but, right? What relationships are the most important relationships for you? And I know it will be different for everyone, but if you were to put a label, what are the relationships that matter to you? And what do those relationships look like?
Okay. So I have a few relationships. I'll have like 3 or 4 relationships I deem very important. The first one is with family. Second one is my special other or my partner.
Okay.
Third one is whoever I'm looking up to, my mentor. With regards to family, the whole aspect of having difficult conversations with my people was very, very, very serious growing up. Between myself and my brother, it's like 8 years difference. So I've always been the last born, the last baby, the young person. Oh, you are the child. When we talk, you have to listen. That kind of exactly. But now, so growing up is like you are always on your own. But now I noticed that I would build a family in the near future.
Yeah.
So if I'm unable to resolve whatever that lies between myself and my family, how am I going to bond with my family? So with them, it's a learning process. I am trying to bond with you to be able to
learn and develop the skills
exactly
for
my own family. So that is why that aspect is important. With a mentor, it's just to help you navigate through life. Yes, there is the God aspect, there is a family aspect, but then there is also the general social aspect.
Okay.
The way you might talk to, let's say, your sister, you cannot go out and then talk to your boss like that. No, that cannot be the case. That is how come you need someone that would help you. Okay, so and so happened. This is how you need to go about it. This is how you need to just relate with your boss to be able to help you have a better relationship with them.
Yeah.
That is why that aspect is important. And the partner too is very important in all aspects. In all aspects. Because after all the brouhaha, you still need someone you can call your own.
Your person.
Someone you can just freely open up to. Someone I will always say, yes, I go out and then I have to now be a strong person to everybody I see. But when I come home, I need to just be myself, relax, take everything off and just talk to someone. And that is why that other person is important. Okay. Yeah.
And if there's two things you want to say have to be present in all of these relationships, well, two values that have to be present in all of these relationships, what would those two values be?
So respect and transparency.
Respect and transparency are important to you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Your turn. We're running out of time, so we will have to...
Okay, so mine is not too different from his in many respects. But I'd say that the one that connects all of them for me is my faith.
Okay.
More often than not, you'd find that some of these things or these relationships are easier to cope with when you have a stronger connection with the one who made all these people and you yourself. It is very difficult to get along with people. And I found that out in many and different forms. But the connections are special. And more often than not, there's a certain weight that you have to put on each one of them to try to sort of like balance it all out, because you don't want yourself throwing all your eggs in one basket and then that cart just turns over.
That's true.
So what I found that is good is that the biggest egg and the biggest amount of eggs go into the faith basket.
Okay.
Because that one makes the most sense to me right now. Of course, all of these will fall into place, and it's an optimistic hope that with all these things, with the faith aspect being covered, all of these things will eventually fall into place.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for that. So now let's go into the interesting bit of this conversation, which is sex and relationships.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is not a big deal. It's just sex. That's a statement I've heard very often from people in your generation. I'll start with your thoughts.
Okay. All right. So I personally think people's views on sex depends on how they were all brought up, how we were all brought up. Because if you grew up in, let's say, in a house where these conversations are held most of the time, you understand why you need to, quote unquote, wait till the right time. You tend not to be moved by certain pressures.
Okay.
But then when you grew up in the house where the topic is forbidden,
Okay.
it tends to make you very curious, especially when you get to your puberty age, and then your teenage ages. It gets you very curious. Okay, so this and this is what my mom is saying. I actually want to try it and see what's happening. And then you go and try it, and then, oh, it's just sex. I mean, it's fun. After 5 minutes, you are done. You've gone home. So depending on the kind of background you are coming from, it shapes or navigates your mind as to how you see sex. I would always bring the God factor in it. If you are coming from a high Christian background, you know you have set values, and you know that, okay, so this and this and this is what the Word of God is saying, and this is what I tend to do as I age. You know that sex wouldn't be just anything. Sex is not just sex. Sex is a kind of bond you get with someone. Some even go ahead to say that it's a covenant. It's a soul tie.
It's a covenant.
Exactly. You tend to have with someone. So you, with that mindset, you know that any person that I give my body to, I've indirectly
covenanted with the person, yes.
tied up with that person.
Yeah.
So you know how to go about it. But then if you are not a Christian, because I'm saying this because maybe our audience out there do not have that particular. If you're not a Christian and to you sex is just about orgasms and just enjoyments, then you can just
Which is what it is for most people.
Exactly. You can just describe sex as just being sex.
Yes.
So I personally think it's all based on how you grew up, your perception, your values as an individual. So basically.
Do you think that digital culture and the internet has shaped the way we see sex today from your generation?
I think it's a critical part of it.
Okay.
Consider the point where, like, sex is a taboo in your house.
Yeah.
You don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. But somebody's talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's talking about it in a certain way.
That you have no control over.
Yes. And the person is being, or at least letting you on to information that you would not regularly get. Which, like you said, arises a certain curiosity in your mind. Like, and it's that curiosity that sometimes pushes someone to go beyond what is currently before them.
Yes.
Because you cannot tell me, like, there's a reason why always when you do something sexual for the first time, there's a certain, should I say, there's
Guilty conscience.
yes, there's a guilty.
Is that guilt?
No, like
you cannot tell your mother
you are
about it.
not like it's something you can't tell your mother about. Exactly.
Okay, so that's the litmus test. Can you go and tell your mother that yesterday I went and did A, B, C, D? If the answer is no, that means it's not good. Is that what you're saying?
You can't tell
That's the
your
test.
Yes.
And whether or not you are able to live with it is what will determine whether you do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, but we can live with it. Can we not?
but some
You guys
people
live with
can't
it all
with
the
it.
time.
No, some people can't live with it. But I would say yes, our generation is more carefree in that regard.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, but then like it's because we have or conditioned ourselves that we can live with such, and maybe the advantages to the disadvantages don't seem to be too.
The gap is not wide.
Yeah, like there seem to be more advantages than disadvantages from where we sit.
When I was growing up, it was you get pregnant, you get pregnant, you
HIV.
get pregnant. No. You get pregnant, you get pregnant, you get pregnant. 1, 2, and 3. And then maybe 4 would be you get HIV. Right? And that was it.
Yeah. And
Okay.
now there are things to navigate that too.
And now there's so many things to navigate
Yeah.
that, right? Thanks to also
Family planning.
yes, right. And so those ones are out of the window.
Exactly.
And but then again, but now we are more attuned to the fact that there's a whole psychological part to it, your value and how you're even perceived based on your sexual activity also exists, and even how, you know, for a woman, how men see you is
Yeah.
important from a sexual perspective, right?
Yes.
So now that there are even more reasons, but now there are more reasons. So when we were younger, I felt like there were less reasons. Now there are more reasons why you shouldn't.
Yeah, but how many of those reasons are
Important to you.
astutely communicated to you and then become important to you? Because that's where I think the fine line is.
Understood. What are the misconceptions your generation has about sex?
Do we have misconceptions?
Yeah, that's the next question.
You don't have any misconceptions.
I feel like everything is free game.
Because-
More often than not, more than the generation before us. Because we have what is being termed the pandemic, especially in Ghana now, where the rise of throat cancer is at a significant high than it's always been.
What was causing?
But
What's causing?
like there are some, should we say, taboo.
What is causing it?
Please, I'm allowed to.
Conversation.
Am I allowed to say it?
Of course you're allowed to
Okay,
say.
so like this thing, like other sexual representations.
I've not seen
like
you stutter the whole time. It's like you were stuttering.
okay, so we have such an example is oral sex.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, oral sex is particularly on the rise.
Okay.
By something that is viewed as the devil's incarnate has entered you. Like you cannot be a Christian woman.
How do you
or-
use this mouth to worship God and then you'll be using it to perform oral sex?
Exactly. I agree.
Yes. So, like, even though that is the case, like, it's still nothing is off the table.
Yeah.
So far as it is something that we both consent to, we agree to, it is on the table. But then, when other elements enter the picture, then you find there's a little bit.
So you're saying that, and that's actually very interesting to hear, that there are no misconceptions. Wow.
Yeah. Most of
So
it we
it all
learn on the
boils down
internet.
to your values as an individual.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you take that one
And
out,
do you have values? Are there a lot of values? Do you feel like your contemporaries, and I know you can't speak for them, but do you have conversations around values? Like, this is important to me.
barely those conversations barely come up, but then you the individual, I mean, personally, your own values, your own understanding, your own wants, your own decisions, something that would make you sleep at night.
Yeah.
Those are the things I would regard as in values you are not willing to forgo. So if yours is, okay, so if I go and have sex with this particular person, for the next 3 to 4 days, I wouldn't be at peace.
Is that the reality?
Some
For
actually
some.
experience, yes.
But most people,
It would shock you.
it will shock me.
Yeah. Based on conversations I've had with people, it seems,
So
yes,
then why do
people
they
are
have it?
love, money,
Okay.
curiosity. Those are just the 3 main things.
Okay.
And most of the time, it is money and curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Alcohol consumption in young people is going down.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you not drinking?
I think there's a new rise, and they're calling it the rise of sobriety. Recently, I heard of a bar that was open in Ghana that is an actual bar experience, club
Non-alcoholic.
experience, but fully non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
It is just an ability to be able to choose that I can have a good time without alcohol.
Yeah.
It's an option and not necessarily a mandatory thing. Something that, like, without, because we, to some extent, we've been socialized to the fact that if you want to have a good time, there must always be drinks.
Yeah.
But, like, a few of us sitting back go like, maybe I'm not ready for the
not really
hangover
the
the next
case.
day.
No, like,
Like, I actually want to feel myself when I am enjoying myself.
Yeah.
I want to have conversations.
Yeah.
Remember the smile of that pretty girl that I met, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to, but I don't want it to be blacked out and then like I go back to my life. It's something that I want to hold on to,
Exactly.
right? And being able to hold on to it means that I need to have some mental capacity
mental
to
presence.
be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a wonderful thing. But I think that it's understanding why.
Okay.
And it goes down to the fact that, like, Gen Zers are curious people. It's always challenging the status quo just to understand why this is the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you're able to make your own personal decisions, which become institutions and values that you yourself can be able to hold firm onto.
Yeah. And I also think Gen Zers, we love following trends. So this is also a new trend that is coming up. Maybe in the next 5 years it will change.
We'll
But
go
then-
back to
exactly.
let's jam it.
Yeah, I mean, the
And let's
80s
drink it.
dressing
Where
and
the
all
drinks
this.
at?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's all about the trend. What is the new ish? Yeah.
Okay. Drugs. What's the word on the street around drugs today? Should parents be worried? I've had an episode on drugs, and that's actually one of the episodes that, was quite difficult in terms of having that conversation. And there are a lot of young people who are consuming drugs today. But I want to hear from you, from your perspective, what's happening with drugs? What do your friends say about drugs?
The trend.
I think that the presence of alternatives is always been the driving force behind the uptick.
Okay.
Where now you have various justification as to why you can take weed as compared to alcohol, while you can take an alternative to weed, as in the CBD, is also an option. And then we have the rise of vaping, which is smoking without actually smoking.
And the shisha.
And then we have the shishas and all of that.
Yeah.
I think the presence of opportunity to be able to do what you want to, or to experience a certain vice to the level to which you are comfortable with, is the reason for the uptake. And be able to give you, should I say, a backing as to give you or solidify your viewpoint on it. So as a result, you go like, well, I'm taking drugs, but I'm not doing alcohol.
Yeah.
That's your
And
justification.
they are
but-
proudly saying,
Yeah, and I'm a straight A
Oh, I don't
student.
do
Like, what's
alcohol.
your
What's your
point?
problem?
Yeah,
Like, I've got
like-
everything else. Everything else is going
Yeah.
well. Got it. Okay. So you've been tagged as the difficult generation because we don't understand you.
we're actually very lovely.
Ah.
Very.
And I want you to think about it for a moment. What are the things we need to do? And I'll give you different scenarios. So I'll give you the workplace and relationships, and I'll give you the home. And you start with the home. What should parents do in service of beginning to understand you better?
Okay.
So if there are 3 things parents need to do to understand you better,
All right.
what are those 3 things?
Okay.
And in the workplace, if there are 2 things we need to do in the workplace, to connect, to get the best out of you, what are those things? And then both of you talk about relationships in terms of, so each of you tell me one thing that will help your relationships thrive better.
Okay. Okay.
So let's start with the home. What should parents do to understand you better?
Patience.
Patience. Yeah. Okay.
Because most parents tend to jump into conclusions. They just add, okay, so when I was young, this is what I was this is what I was doing. So if I add 1 + 2, this is what you need to be doing by now.
Okay.
But, mommy, that's not the case. So we just need them to be patient, listen to us, be open-minded about our views, our opinions, because that is what we stand for. We want to be heard. And also, I know that will be difficult, but then respect.
Respect.
Yeah.
You want to be seen as individuals, whole people, and be respected for what's in your mind and what you bring, like valued. Is that what it is?
The valued aspect. Because once you are willing to hear me out, it means you respect me enough to listen to what I have to say.
Okay.
Yes. So it's all intertwined.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Workplace.
is basically the same everywhere, I believe, but more like I think that one of the ways that you could do that is having dialogue.
Okay.
Because dialogue means that two people are speaking,
Not one.
not one. There's not one domineering voice over the other, but equality, or should I say, in this case, equity. Because equality would mean that there is equality amongst people of the same class. But equity would mean that I stand at this level. What can I do to bring you at the same level such that we can have a conversation between two people and not just between a supervisor and his subordinate.
Okay.
There are some things that I struggle with. Obviously, I'm not going to be perfect at it, but then there will be some things too that I bring to the table that have value and can produce better results. But it's meeting at that point where you can both say that, yes, I hear you, let's try it this way, but with this caveat or either way.
Thank you. Relationships.
Why do you always look at me when I say relationships?
She's leaning into you. Allow her to.
Let me smile. Okay. Communication.
Communication.
Yeah. So
the same dialogue he was talking about.
exactly.
Okay.
Because I don't know, but most men.
Hey,
Yes.
you've been leaning into him. Now you see he's feeling attacked right now.
You need to be attacked. Most men tend to feel they don't need to open up to you. And which makes it, because I'm not a magician to understand how you feel to be able to contribute to your needs. They feel they need to be the man. He mentioned they don't need to cry and all that. But if you classify an individual as your person, you need to actually be able to be vulnerable around the person. So the communication aspect is very key, and
you need to learn not to use it against them one day and not throw it in their faces one day, isn't it?
I was about to say that.
we will try, but
They must do it, but you will only try. Oh, girl, listen, I'm not with you on that. You are on your own. You are squarely on your own.
I mean, what you're saying is true, but the communication aspect is very, very, very key, because that's how come most relationships are not working these days. Because the men think they need to be bossy and everything.
I think that's actually quite normal, isn't it? Because I think men are built very differently from women, right?
It is. But here is the case where you are dating a Gen Zer who would ask you a lot of questions, who would
You
want
must
to
answer.
know.
They are curious.
Exactly. So yes, we know that this is the status quo, but we are also in different generations. So we want you to talk to us.
Today. I'm a Gen Z.
Please, you've been recruited. So we just want you to just talk, listen to us, talk to us. Let's come to a consensus to make life better.
Better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's interesting. Because it's a systemic thing that goes down to things of gender roles and all of that.
Yeah,
because
that's very true.
Everyone has a semblance of the role that they're supposed to play.
Yeah.
But it comes down to questioning that, do I actually have to do this?
Okay.
And then when you try to go contrary to said gender roles, that the small box that you've been placed in, then it's sort of like you feel some pushback sometimes. Because it's like you are not able to properly, you feel like this thing, the way I thought it would go, it wouldn't go that way. So then you withdraw, recoil, and then you start to sort of like live up to a certain expectation, or try to live up to a certain expectation, just so that you don't necessarily try and anger anybody. But then it means that later down the line, you're just something.
They're kicking the can further down the line.
Exactly the point. Like you just find yourself kicking yourself down the line, then you find yourself like people doing weird and crazy things as a result. Like I think some of the things like suicide and all of those things is as a result of I've kept kicking this conversation down the line just because like this is who I think I am, but I'm not allowed to show it the way I want to.
show it.
So then this thing. So it also manifests itself in
Different ways.
One of such is infidelity. Because I may find something good in you,
But I'm not getting everything
but I'm not getting everything I want from here. So then I'm going to somebody else who give me that.
Then you'll be dating 7 people though.
Yeah, so that's the problem with our generation. Like, I can't get it. I recognize that I can't get it from one place, but then I can go a couple of places to get my fill of everything that I want and I feel like I need. But then that's where I feel like here we need the older generation to guide us, not tell us what to do, but to guide us.
So thank you for this. I think it's been insightful in many ways. Yeah. We will definitely do a second version of this.
That should be interesting.
It will. We'll dig a little deeper.
Okay.
So this is our preliminary episode.
Okay.
I will make you a quick mocktail or a cocktail.
Okay.
And you tell me what's in it.
Okay. Okay.
So, to what I term the fun part of all of this,
Okay.
I've made you a mocktail. The only requirement is you drink it, you tell me one thing that is in it, each of you tells me one flavor that you taste, and then this is a wrap.
All right.
So here we go.
Can you get me right? Thank you.
Cratch it.
Gentle.
Stir it up. Stir it up. There you go. Okay, so we go. No, I'm always like halfway down before my guests are like, all right, what do you taste? You're suffering.
I'm really suffering. But mixed fruits.
It is mixed fruit, yes.
There's tonic water.
There's definitely tonic water because you heard her say she didn't give me tonic water. Here we go.
Oh, come
Stir it up.